Okay, so let's move forward to our first sort of treasury topic, if you will, and that is bank relationships. So our question was, what is your main cash management bank, right? And as you can see, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and PNC and U.S. Bank are really making up the large majority of the responses, if you will. But there are a handful of other banks pulling in Huntington Bank, Harris Bank, Regions Bank, and so forth. Even the Central Bank of the Republic of Turkey made it on the list, which I thought was interesting. But nonetheless, these are the main banks of the respondents. Now, I was just giving a presentation out in Southern California last week at the Southern California AFP Expo, and I had one question, like, how did you define main cash management bank? They asked, was it defined by number of bank services, number of bank accounts, and or number of or how much billing goes to a particular bank? And the answer is it wasn't defined. It was essentially left up to the practitioner to define what is their main cash management bank. It's my understanding that it would probably be a combination of all of the above. So it's probably the bank where you have the most accounts, where you're utilizing the most services, and where you're paying the most for bank fees and so forth. So that's my guess. So how many bank relationships does your organization have? And as you can see, there's a nice growth here from under 250 million up to greater than 5 billion, where just under 200 or 250 million, just over 11 banks per organization. 250 million to $1 billion, you're looking at just shy of 15 banks. And what I found interesting here is that there wasn't a real large jump between 250 million to $1 billion from that categorization to the 1 billion to 5 billion, where you will see 15.5 bank relationships per organization, and then greater than 5 billion at 16.71 banks per organization on average. The next logical question is, well, how many bank accounts do you have? This is an interesting chart in that you will see that under 250 million, it's just shy of 26 bank accounts per organization. 250 million to $1 billion is 144.46. 1 billion to 5 billion at 122 approximately, and then a gigantic jump, if you will, once you're over 5 billion to just shy of 400 bank accounts per organization. So what we're seeing here is a exponential growth of complexity with cash management above the $5 billion range. And you will see this trend here sort of throughout the Treasury Survey results, where the 250 million to 5 billion are, there's a normal growth pattern, if you will, but then once you reach 5 billion, an exponential growth of complexity. So you might be asking, why does the 250 million to $1 billion exceed the 1 billion to 5 billion, the 144 versus the 121? Well, the reason why is because there was one respondent within the 250 million to $1 billion that was an outlier, where they had a tremendous amount of accounts, which skewed the results higher to the 144. If they were not in the survey, which obviously we included them in the survey results, but if you excluded that figure, you would see a more normal growth rate from the under 250 million to the 250 million to $1 billion to 1 billion to 5 billion. You'd see a more normal growth rate. But as it stands right now, these are the results. So moving forward, wanted to know about bank fees. So we asked, well, does your organization monitor and analyze bank fees? And as you can see, the vast majority, 91% said yes, and just shy of 9% said no. Quite frankly, I'm surprised that 9% said no. I'm wondering why organizations are not monitoring and analyzing their bank fees. So the next question was, well, if you are analyzing your bank fees, how often do you do this? And as you could see, over 50% of the respondents said monthly, Just shy of 25% said quarterly, and then the rest were either semi-annually or yearly. I apologize that the percentages are off on this slide. So moving on to credit facilities. I wanted to know, I've often heard that there's a correlation between credit facilities and bank relationships, but I never found any research that indicated one way or the other that there was a correlation or tried to quantify that statement, if you will. So I figured when we were doing the annual Treasury Survey, we would actually ask that question. So the first part of it is, well, does your organization have a credit facility? And as you can see, just shy of 84% said yes, and it's about approximately 16% of the organization said that they did not have a credit facility. So the next step in this question is, well, if you do have a credit facility, does your credit facility influence your bank relationship management? And again, as you can see, over 3/4 of the respondents indicated that their credit facility does influence their bank relationship management, while just under 1/4 indicated that it did not.